now have official confirmation of a tornado touching down in a very unusual spot this week on Long Island. On the evening of Thursday, August 20th, 2026, we actually had a waterspout that came on shore in Atlantic Beach. For reference, Atlantic Beach is on the south shore of Long Island, Nassau County, about 4 miles southeast of JFK, so this is very close to New York City itself. This tornado is actually very small in surface area, so it's pretty difficult to detect on velocity scans unless you squint, but you do see a little bit of a couplet here near Atlantic Beach. So now let's get into the why. What exactly caused this tornado and how rare of an occurrence is this actually? This was a pretty classic severe weather setup across the mid-Atlantic, as you had winds blowing in from the south while a cold front approached from the north and west. Whenever you get classic air masses, that is a prime recipe for severe weather, particularly for those of you who are in the warm sector. At the time of this tornado, New York City and Long Island was almost perfectly draped over the frontal boundary. This right here is a partially observed sounding from Upton, which is out in Suffolk County, and it does show curvature in the photographs. What that means is winds are turning as you move up in the atmosphere, and that creates rotation, and rotation can produce tornadoes. Now, the shear profiles were actually stronger to the south, which is why we had multiple tornadoes in Pennsylvania and the intense tornado in Dover, Delaware. We can talk more about those in a future video if you guys like. Was this tornado risk actually forecast? Well, we can see right here that the SPC actually had a 2% tornado risk for New York City and Long Island and a 5% farther south. I would say that verified quite well, so props to them for an excellent forecast. I also repeatedly mentioned the potential for tornadoes in my videos and other social media posts, so to me this did not come as a surprise. Unfortunately, this tornado did pretty extensive damage to the community of Atlantic Beach. As a result, the preliminary damage survey from the National Weather Service in Upton gave this a rating of EF1 with maximum winds of 97 miles per hour. This tornado was only on the ground for about 3 minutes and covered about a third of a mile. It was also very skinny, only about 100 yards in width. So how unusual was this? Well, tornadoes on Long Island are rare but not unprecedented. We've had a few dozen over the years. This was actually the first tornado anywhere on Long Island since September of 2022. But for Nassau County specifically, this was actually the first EF1 or greater tornado since August 12th of 2005. So no, it's not an exaggeration to say that for this region, this was actually the strongest tornado in over 20 years. Another interesting thing about the storm is that once it departed, it actually took on a very cool looking structure. It actually took the appearance of a bona fide mini nor'easter, and you can even see an eye. We hope that everybody in the path of these damaging tornadoes has a speedy recovery, and for continuous coverage of severe weather all around the world, please make sure to follow me on all social media platforms so you can stay weather aware.